Guys, this video is going to be dissecting Scott Cawthon's Reddit post. And it's going to be diving into what I think he did correctly, which, honestly, spoiler, I think the entire thing was absolutely brilliant. He shouldn't have to post something like this in the first place, but he did. But let's go into this. Because boy, am I pissed off. I'm not very good at doing this, but I try to interject some humor or some sarcasm into this. I'm no manga common, but I do my best. Let's get into the post.
This message isn't specifically directly at the Reddit community. This is just the community that I care about the most and where I choose to post these things. I never cared much for Twitter anyway. To say that the last few days have been surreal would be an understatement. I've debated greatly how best to address this, including not addressing it at all, but with so many people from the LGBT community in the fanbase that I love, that's not an option. I'd like to think that the last 7 years would have given me the benefit of the doubt in regards to how I try to treat people, but there I was, trending on Twitter for being a homophobe, getting doxxed, with people threatening to come to my house.
Yeah, the fact that people think that's okay to even make threats like that, I thought people were actually showing up at your house, but the fact that people think that it's okay to think that, like that and say those things, that's just disgusting. No matter who you are, no matter what your political beliefs are, no matter how extreme or not extreme your views may be. Like, seriously, guys, that doesn't solve anything. It doesn't make you any better than the person that you're claiming is such a horrible person. In fact, in a lot of ways, it makes you worse.
My wife is 6 weeks pregnant and she spent last night in fear because of what was being said online.
Yeah, it pisses me off that people are saying that he's hiding behind his pregnant wife and that it's a Chad move for him to hide behind his pregnant wife. I'm not going to show these people because I don't want to give them the time of day, but they exist. Trust me, it's Twitter. You spit hard enough, you'll find an idiot like this. Him being in fear for his wife's safety is not a Chad mood. It's him being a protective husband and a future father who doesn't want his child or his wife to get hurt. So idiots who think like that, think that he's a weakling for using his wife or, quote, hiding behind his wife can just eat dirt.
She has already been struggling with her pregnancy, so seeing her so afraid really scared me. All this because I exercised my right, and my duty, as an American citizen, to vote for and support the candidates who I felt could best run the country.
Scott, at this point you should know that people don't care. And they don't care that your wife's pregnant. Your baby could cease to exist for all these idiots care, and they would probably just laugh. That's the attitude that I get from a lot of these idiots that are attacking you, and especially the ones that are threatening to come to your house.
For everyone, and that's something that I won't apologize for. For those who took the time to look, you saw that the candidates I supported included men, women, white people, black people, Republicans, and Democrats. I supported Kimberly Klacik in Baltimore because I believed that she really cared for the African American community there and wanted to pull them out of poverty. I believed she could have really make a difference in a time when so many black communities were struggling. She lost, unfortunately. I supported Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat, even though I disagreed with her on several issues, because I felt she would have been a good and fair president.
Okay, so let me get this straight. Scott, a conservative man who disagreed with Gabbard on a multiple array of issues, actually voted for her to be president. And this man is getting hate because he's a conservative? I know people don't really like Tulsi Gabbard either, but like, come on, dude. She's like very much pro-LGBT, like staunch pro-LGBT. That in and of itself should tell you that he's not homophobic.
And yes, I supported President Trump, because I felt he was the best man to fuel a strong economy and stand up to America's enemies abroad, of which there are many. Even if there were candidates who had better things to say to the LGBT community directly, and bigger promises to make, I believed that their stances on other issues would have ended up doing much greater harm to those communities than good.
Yes, my conservative LGBT friends will tell you this. You can kiss the ass of the LGBT all you want, and it means jack squat. You see, make all the promises you want, but if you put all this money to one group, and you neglect other things that matter, such as, fuel, jobs, building up the economy, and all this other stuff, then you are still causing harm to that group of people that you claim to support because you've shoved all your monetary eggs into one basket and neglected the other basket that is also beneficial to that group. don't have to agree with his politics, but I mean, come on, that's just logical.
All of this explanation, I fear, is wasted, as people don't want to discuss with one another anymore. They want endless apologies and submission.
Yep, I literally read someone say, I don't want, quote, Scott to get what he deserves, end quote, I want a apology. And I responded to them saying, an apology for what? Him having his own opinion, voicing his own mind, and speaking what he believes is correct? Seriously.
People who are expecting those from me will get neither.
Good, and that's exactly how it should be, Scott. More people, regardless of your politics, need to do that. Stop apologizing to people because it does nothing. It will never be enough. One apology will never be enough. They will always hold this issue over your head from now until the day Jesus comes back to earth. So why do it anyway? Unless you've genuinely hurt a person, don't apologize to the mob because it doesn't matter.
I've always been supportive of creators, and have tried to treat everyone fairly, and treat everyone with dignity and respect. I've never cared about anyone's race, religion, gender, or orientation. I just treat people as people, everyone the same, and because of that, I've ended up with a very diverse group of people that I've worked with over the years. It wasn't intentional. It just happened that way. I choose people who are best for the job. I treat everyone the same, and I ended up with people from all walks of life in my professional life and my personal life as well.
And that to me is exactly how life should be. Do not care about their race, sexuality, orientation, religion. It shouldn't matter, especially on a professional level. If you start constantly focusing on what people's personal lives are, unless they're like really extreme with their beliefs, and you stop worrying about what they can actually do for you from a business perspective, then you're really just virtue signaling at that point, and you may hire people that are not that good for the job. It happens all the time. J. Abrams and Kathleen Kennedy. Ooh, sorry about that. I had something in my throat.
That's the way it should be. That's the way I want it to be. That's the way I will continue to be. I'm a Republican. I'm a Christian. I'm pro-life.
Yeah, I've seen several people say, well, how could Scott be pro-life? He made a whole game about dead children. And that just annoys me. That's the equivalent of saying, how can Rob Zombie be against murder when he spends his career making movies based off murder? Do you see how ridiculous that sounds? I mean, seriously, these people need to learn the difference between reality and fiction, but they can't because their head is so far up La La Land's ass that their entire world is fiction.
I believe in God. I also believe in equality, and in science, and in common sense. Despite what some may say, all of those things can go together.
No, they can't, Scott, you racist, sexist, ableist, homophobic, transphobic, biphobic, bioptical bastard. Whatever other faux people want to label you as so that they have a sense of moral superiority. Good Lord, this world is so silly.
That's not an apology or promise to change, it's the way it's always been. If I get cancelled, then I get cancelled. I don't do this for the money anymore, I do it because I enjoy it. If people think I'm doing more harm than good now, then maybe it's better that I get cancelled and retire. I would accept that. I've had a fulfilling career. Besides, most things that people can take from you are things that never had much value to begin with. I have always loved, and will continue to love, this community and this fanbase, even if someday it doesn't include me anymore.
And that right there is just sad. Forcing a man to think about retiring simply because you are so small-minded that you can't stand when someone has a different opinion than you. It amazes me. I've seen people call trans people fake simply because they stood for Scott. I have seen people say, it's funny that all the people that are defending Scott, most of them are not part of the LGBT. When I had to say how stupid that sounded, because how do you know what their sexual orientation is? Stop assuming that people aren't part of the LGBT simply because they don't have their sexuality and their bio, because you sound super bigoted, and you sound like part of the problem when people have issues coming out. People like you are the reason that they don't come out, because you will just assume that they're not really gay. This all just pisses me off and angers me to no end. This should not be happening, but it is happening, and it's just sad. He supported candidates he didn't even agree with on most things. Yet you want to call him homophobic, racist, and whatever else you do simply because he doesn't align with your viewpoints? No. That is not how things work here. I'm tired of people throwing a tantrum and bullying individuals into giving apologies that they shouldn't have to give because they're just standing up for their beliefs. You don't support his beliefs? Fine. Think with your wallet. But the moment that you attack him and his family, that is where I draw the line. The man doesn't do this crap for money anymore. He's made his bank. He's done his thing. So for you to think that it's okay to threaten to go to his house, stressing his wife out who is pregnant, where she could miscarry, that says more about you disgusting little weasels than it ever does about Scott and his character. Seriously. Take a listen to this. I'm usually content with joking around and not taking things seriously most of the time. But as someone that works for Scott as part of the Fazbear fanverse, I feel obligated to give my thoughts on the I Stand With Scott and the whole FNAF controversy that's occurred. I don't agree with Scott's beliefs on modern trends and issues. I believe he's very misguided and uninformed about those topics for what he wants to accomplish. Ignorance can be just as much harm as malice, especially referring to those in positions of power or influence. However, as a person, Scott is one of the kindest, most respectful, and well-meaning people I know. He's done amazing things with his fame and given unconditional love and support to everyone, regardless of who they are. I hold a great deal of respect for him because of this. So for a well-meaning but sometimes ignorant person, I have to judge Scott on the weight of his actions. And to me, the good he does for the world far outweighs his mistakes. So while I don't see eye to eye with him, I still feel confident in supporting him as a creator. If you are a member of the LGBT community and disagree, if you feel uncomfortable financially supporting Scott and FNAF, I fully understand your position and cannot dismiss you for feeling that way. It's your choice to make, and I encourage you to stand your ground on it. Much the same, I also respect Scott for standing his own ground and not letting himself be pushed around by irrational, fringe, and psychotic individuals that like to toy with people's entire lives. His response to the situation was the best thing he could possibly have done. I also support Scott's decision to only continue with the franchise if he finds enjoyment out of it. I personally only make stuff for my own enjoyment as well, so I can very much agree with the mindset of putting one's own happiness above having to please others. It's for this that I will continue to make FNAF Plus and support Scott, as I've thoroughly loved working on this project and being a part of the community, regardless of how many stupid, dumb baby jokes I've made and will continue to make in the future. That's it for me. A person who's worked with Scott knows how Scott operates, knows he's a good person, but he disagrees with Scott's political stances. Says that he still supports him. You do not have to support everything a person says or does to be able to think that that person's a good person. I don't agree with everything Tulsi Gabbard says, but I think she's a good person. You fringe whack jobs need to get a life. Not everyone is going to say the very things that you want them to. And you're not owed an apology simply because a man decides to exercise his right to his own political views. And good on Scott for standing his ground. Good on Scott for standing for what he believes in and not backing down. Good on him. Because, damn it, we live in a world where cancel culture is thick, and the people who support it are even thicker. I'm so sick and tired of this, guys. I'm so sick and tired of the way people treat people. But you know what? What are you going to do about it? So, this has been my piece. I've stated my piece. I've stated my thing on this whole thing. I might make another video on this. I don't know. But Scott has my support. He has my prayers. And all of you idiots who think that this is okay to harass the man over, get bent.